What's up, good people? I am KT, and I have been given the privilege of giving us our week one huddle content for freedom's sake. For freedom's sake is a series that's touching into the fact that we have been set free, not for ourselves, but for the sake of freedom. Literally being taken out of chains so that we can get other people out of chains, right? And it's actually a new thing for us because our sermon series is actually matching our huddle series. It's the exact same title. So if you can go with me to John chapter 5, what I'm going to do is I'm going to read through verse 1 through 9. I'm going to tell you some of the things that I got out of it, give you some questions, and hopefully that helps you get directly into your huddle for today.
Now back to your regularly televised show.
So I know that you can read, but what I want to do is I want to read through the verses 1 through 9, and I want to point out some things that you might not be able to gather just from what Corey would call casual reading. So in verse 1 it says, later Jesus went to Jerusalem for a special Jewish festival. There was 3 Jewish festivals that this might have been, and it was custom for each male to go to these Jewish festivals, and Jesus, being Jewish, found himself on his way to Jerusalem for this. In Jerusalem, verse 2, there is a pool with 5 covered porches. In Aramaic, it is called Bethsaida. This pool is near the sheep gate. Now, the sheep that would be sacrificed at the temple, the inwards portions of them would be washed at this place that they called the Great Pool. It was actually one of the first spaces in this area that had, I guess you can call it like pipes that would go from a large body of water, and it flowed into this great pool. So in verse 3 it says that many sick people were lying on the porches beside the pool. Some of them were blind, some were crippled, and some were paralyzed, but all of them dealt with some type of disease, some type of issue. All of these people went to this place with the expectation that whatever it was that was inflicting them, whatever it was that had them in chains, they would become free from, or at least they had the hope that they would become free from. In verse 4 it says, sometimes an angel of the Lord came down to the pool and shook the water. After this, the first person to get into the pool was healed from any sickness that he had. One of the men that was laying there had been sick for 38 years. His sickness had been in his body longer than Jesus at this point in time was alive. And Jesus saw him lying there and knew that he had been sick for a very long time. So he asked him, do you want to be well? The sick man answered, sir, there's no one to help me to get into the water when it starts moving. And I try to be the first one into the water, but when I try, someone else always goes in before I can. In the King James Version, it says, I have no man to like, so what it was implying in this verbiage is that he didn't have enough money to have a servant that would actually be capable of picking him up and putting him into the water. So he was just left to try to get in there as fast as anyone else, or faster than someone who did have enough money to have a servant to put them into the water. So so the sick man answered, so there's no one to help me. Verse 8, then Jesus says, stand up, pick up your mat, and walk. And then verse 9, it says, immediately the man was well. He picked up his mat and started walking. The day all this happened was a Sabbath day. Now, it does go on to talk about how afterwards, people pointed out the fact that it was a Sabbath and he was carrying his mat on the Sabbath day. And the law said that you could not carry anything in your left hand. In your right hand, you couldn't put it on your shoulder, and you couldn't carry it on your breast or your back area. So the fact that he was walking around with his mat on this Sabbath day was bringing up questions and bringing up issues. And they asked him, who was the man who told you to pick up your mat and walk? Because Jesus had literally told him, or he had literally told the people, that a man not only healed me, but gave me permission that I may walk around on the Sabbath with my mat. Now, Bethesda, this place that he was at, it was called, it meant the house of grace and the house of mercy. And it really points out the main point that I want to talk about today is, and that's how we go into the house of grace. We go into the house of mercy and we expect to stay in chains. When Jesus asked this man, do you want to be made whole? Do you want to be made well? His response wasn't a simple yes. His response was, how can I be? Like, I have no expectation of it. I don't have a manservant. I don't have anyone to help me. But nonetheless, this man had been going to this place over and over again, maybe daily, maybe weekly. But he had, even in this moment, laid in the literal place of grace, the literal house of grace and mercy, and he had no expectation of being made whole. And that's the point that I want to make for this week's content is how many places and spaces that we occupied, and we went into this place with an expectation that the chains will remain. When we leave here, we'll be the same as we came, and we are going literally to the house of mercy. We are on our way to the house of grace with the expectation that when we leave this house, we will be in the same predicament. We will be in the same blindness. We will be in the same lameness. We will be with the same expectation of chains that we had when we entered. So that leads me to my questions for today. What do you expect to receive when you enter into the house of mercy and when you enter into the house of grace? In your past or present state, what is something that you gave up on? Literally no longer expect to happen because nobody is going to help you with it. What is God telling you to take up and walk away with this season? What is your mat in this season? Your place of comfortability, right? This man would have brung this mat so that while he was lame, while he was blind, while he was struggling, while he was hurting, while he was broken, while he was in darkness, that he would have at least this little bit of comfortability. What is the thing that has made you comfortable in your present state that God is saying, now that you're well, pick that up and walk away with it because you don't need it anymore? My encouragement to you today is that God is ready, right? Jesus is always present and ready for you to be able to walk away from this broken state. My encouragement for you is that you have already hopefully taken the steps to go to the beautiful gate, to go to the place to where Jesus is willing and ready and waiting to meet you at, to tell you to pick up your mat. So now it's just a simple fact of picking up that mat and walking away from that comfortable place and no longer having the expectations of chains. May you be free. Go in peace. Bless up.